What's up, everybody? It's your boy Season. So today we got the Solar Chogokin Tryon 3. I definitely was not going to pass this up. So I'm very excited in getting this one in. So we're not going to waste any more time. Let's go. So let's take a look and see what we've got inside here. So of course, we have the stand for the Tryon 3. So you've got that. Looks like you got your hands here, parts for the base. Looks like you got the long part of the Chogokin, and you've got the wings on there. Looks like you've got some other effect parts here. That's probably for when he does like the rocket punch or whatever. And then you got the hilt for the Chogokin. So you've got those for your effect parts. And then let's turn this around. All right. So let's see what we've got here. Let's take this out. All right, so it looks like you've got the crown piece for that. Looks like you've got the plate for the Tryon 3 there. You've got the lion there. Let's see what else. We got like the mantis, or like manta ray, I guess. And then you've got the bird there. So it looks like we've got that stuff. So we've got that, and then it looks like we have a manual as well. So what I'll do is take all this stuff out of the box and we'll take a look at the manual next. So let's take a look at this manual here. Now, you know, the thing about the Tryon 3, this kind of came out of nowhere. I was not expecting a Solar Chogokin Tryon 3. I was thinking, if anything, we'd get a metal build, but this was one of my favorite Gundams in Build Fighters Try. To me, this is the best thing out of Build Fighters Try. I really liked the first season of Build Fighters. Build Fighters Try was just okay. It wasn't great. It definitely had its moments. Oh, so it looks like this is a interview with the mecha designer, because I think Obari did this one. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about that though. But you know, the thing about this, because we haven't gotten anything from Build Fighters Try in any kind of like, we've gotten model kits and stuff, but we've never gotten anything else. So it looks like this, looks like it's pretty simple. I don't see anything that's gonna be too difficult here. So I'm definitely very excited to get this in. I really was not expecting them to release this so soon. I always wanted a Tryon 3. I did build the high grade of it, and I have the electroplated kit that I won that I still have not built. I kind of want to keep that as a memento, but I really did like the Tryon 3 in Build Fighters Try. So I'm definitely gonna be excited to check this out. Okay, so it looks like that's what we've got. So that's what we've got for the manual. So now we will take a look at the accessories next. So let's take a look at his accessories. So first things first, they have the nameplate for Tryon 3. I really do like this. I wish more companies would put either the name of the show or like the mobile suit in here. I really do like the fact that they did that, but it looks nice. It's solid gold. Now there is a P Bandai one in Japan. It has not been on the US site, but there is one that has something that's similar to this, but it's it's a acrylic stand, so it's not in black. It's more like clear or whatever. But yeah, so you've got that. So you got that little stand there. Apparently that does connect to the base as well. So that's what you have for the little nameplate. Then you have two versions of the V-fin. So of course you have the big version of the V-fin. He used this as like a boomerang, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've seen Build Fighters Try, but you got this. This is really, really huge. And then this one, this actually goes on the mobile suit itself. So you've got that one there. So very nice size. It is plated gold. It's not chrome plated. I think having it chrome plated would be pretty awesome. But this is just kind of like a painted or a spray painted gold. So that's what you have for the two V fins. Then you have a lot of the beam effect parts. He used a lot of beam attacks and stuff like this, but this is pretty much the beam effects for the bird mode. And then also you can put these on the Tryon 3 when he's complete, so you can have the bird wings, even though I don't remember seeing that in the show. But it looks like that might be something extra. I could be wrong about that not being in the show. Like I said, it's been a while since I've seen them. So, but you've got two of the smaller versions here. And then these are the bigger versions of those wing effects, I guess. So you got two of those. So you got those look really, really nice. So of course it's, you know, we've seen with metal builds and stuff, we see plenty of beam effect parts. So this is kind of run of the mill for Gundam. But yeah, so you got those two there. Then of course he's got two extra large beam sabers. These remind me of chopsticks. I have some beam sabers chopsticks that I got at one of the Gundam stores in Japan, and it looks almost exactly like this. So they are very, very long. Of course, we are used to seeing that with the double Zeta, of course. So, but it does look nice, but yes, they are really, really long. So that's what you have for his dual beam sabers. And then you have the extra large version of the Chogokin. So this was his beam sword that he used as a finishing move against the Tri Fighters. So this one looks really, really cool. How this was introduced in the show was really, really good. And if you are a Super Robots fan, then it is pretty run-of-the-mill. It's kind of like Mazen Kaiser, where he pulls it out of his chest, but hopefully I'll get a chance to simulate that a little bit later. But that's what you have for the Chogokin. And then next, this effect piece is to simulate when he pulls the Chogokin out of his chest. So, you know, it looks really, really nice, but you get an extra handle piece here, and pretty much you would just insert that in here, and then you would put that in the lion's mouth, and you can simulate him trying to pull that out of his chest. And if you've seen a lot of Super Robots, like I said before, we've seen that with Mazen Kaiser and some of the other Super Robots as well. So that's what you have for that effect part. And then you get two of these. This pretty much is his version of the Rocket Punch. I think it's called the Rocket Booster or something like that. But you can put these in the arms and you can simulate that as well. So you get two of these. So he gets a lot of effect parts, like I've said before. So these look really nice though. So I like these. And then lastly, we have 4 sets of hands. To my knowledge, he does not come with any articulated hands, which is unfortunate, but the fixed pose ones do look pretty good. So first he has these two. These are his semi-open hands. So they do look really nice. They're pretty heavy duty, I must admit. So he's got a set of these, and then he's got a set of wide open hands. So he's got these as well. So nothing super spectacular, but they do look nice. I just kind of wish, I really do like articulated hands. I think they just do a little bit better, but fixed poses are great for weapons and stuff like that. So that's what you got for the wide open hands. And then he's got his beam saber hands. So he's got those, you know, the double Zeta does have really large beam sabers. So these are gonna be a little bit wider than most. It almost looks like trigger finger hands, but he does not have a gun to my knowledge. So, but that's what you've got for that set. And then lastly, we have his closed fist hands. So I think he has one inside. I'll have to check that when we do the transformation, but you do have these. So you have a set of the closed fist. So that's pretty much it for accessories. As you saw, just a ton of beam weaponry and stuff of that nature. But what we'll do next is we'll take a look at the 3 parts that make up Tryon 3. So we'll do that next. So here we have the 3 Tri machines. So this looks really cool. This is a good display piece. So they've got quite a bit of die cast in most of them. So of course here for the Liger, you have Riku Tryon, all right? And then you have Tryon, which is based off of Manta Ray. And then you have Sora Tryon, he's based off of an eagle. So it does look really, really good. This is a really nice display piece. Then of course, most people are gonna have this displayed as the Tryon 3. So, so even though it does look good, I mean, maybe if you had two, you could, you would want this kind of display piece. And then of course you've got the Tryon 3 symbol there in the front. So I do like how this looks all together. But so let's take a look at the Tryon machines individually. So let's take a look at the individual Tryon machines. Now, I will say that they do have limited articulation, so there's not gonna be a ton to go through from the individual machines, but we'll take a look at it and see. So first things first, with Riku Tryon, it's interesting because he actually has a decent hind leg thing. I've got other figures that cost way more than this, where they can't sit on their hind legs. I'm looking at you, Black Lion from Voltron. Of course, that's due to his transformation gimmick, but I am surprised that this one can do that. But see, we can take a look at here. So of course, you've got all of the chrome plated here and half of it. So half of it's brush painted, but the main part is pretty much chrome plated for the majority of it. So you've got that, but he really can't move his head. I mean, he can kind of move it up like that, but it's the whole locking mechanism here that's really moving. It's not the head itself. So you've got that. And of course you've got the Double Zeta head back here with his crown on. So you've got that there. So, you do have some articulation here in the legs. So he's got decent amount, but not a ton here. So you can have him kind of standing up and a little bit more like that. So, so you've got a little bit there. So that's pretty cool. And then for the guns, now the guns can move in and out like this, but they cannot move up and down. Now, in order to move it up, you actually have to take this piece and you can actually raise this up. I'm gonna try to grab this here. And you can raise it up, and that's how you lift it up, kind of like that. So you've got that, and you can do, up and down like that, but it doesn't move side to side from that joint here, okay? But as far as the guns are concerned, they do move in and out, but they don't move up and down, okay? So that's pretty much all you've got for Riku Tryon, and he's probably got the most that I've seen so far. So we'll take a look at Tryon next. Next, we have Tryon here. So with his, pretty much since he is the upper torso of the Tryon 3, the majority of his articulation is just based on that by itself. So really, these don't move all that much. These just move this way. These can move up and down a little bit. You can move them a little bit in and out. So you do have that. This is the double shields for the Double Zeta, but those can move in and out as well and move up. These can go in and out, but that's based on the arms of the Double Zeta there. And then of course for the tail, for the Manta Ray, you can pull that off because you'll need to do that later when we get to his transformation. So that's pretty much all he's got. He's got limited articulation, not a ton here. But like I said, if you were gonna have two Tryon 3s, then I could see maybe having one in vehicle mode or, animal mode or whatever. But to be honest, you're buying this in order to transform him into Tryon 3. But, at least you do have a little bit here. So I'm not gonna complain that much about it. I mean, it is a Chogokin, so, and the transformation gimmick isn't really that bad. So, but that's what you've got for Tryon. And then lastly, you have Sora Tryon. So he pretty much is just an eagle, and his is gonna be limited as well. This pretty much is the legs of the Tryon 3. So he's got the eagle talons. These can move in and out here, so you can do that on both sides. The wing parts, these can actually come out. So, and that's pretty much just the side skirts of the Double Zeta there. So you can do that. Let me put this back in here real quick. just like that. You can kind of raise those up if you want to do something like that there. So this is where the majority of his die cast is. As you can see, this is the joint for the knees. So you've got that there. And then for the head, you can open the mouth there for Sora Tryon. So you've got that. It doesn't really move all that much. Doesn't move up or down, left or right, it's just kind of there. So that's pretty much what you've got there. Of course, you can see that's the feet of the Double Zeta or the Tryon 3 there, and then this is the back of the thigh there. So you can kind of see how this was gonna transform here. So that's pretty much it. Limited articulation for the individual Tryon machines themselves, but I wasn't expecting them to be super articulate. Just as long as the Tryon 3 has decent articulation, I will be satisfied with this. But you know, so you've got a little bit here, movement here, so you know, pretty cool, but nothing to write home about. All right, so now that we're done with that, we're going to transform him into Tryon 3. So we'll do that next. So there you have him in all of his glory, the Tryon 3. I never thought I'd see an actual like figure of this. I've always loved this design. To me, this was the best thing out of Build Fighters Try. And he looks really good. He's actually extremely heavy. As far as the transformation goes, the transformation wasn't bad at all. The only issue that you may have is on the head here, because it's on like a slanted hinge and it has to be perfect. If you don't put it in there correctly, this won't connect to the torso, and this will be kind of loose. But if you follow the instructions, you really won't have any issue with him. So let's take a look at some of this detail here. So of course you got the Double Zeta head. He looks really, really good. Now it is kind of recessed a little bit in here because his neck, I mean, you can stick it up, so it does have some movement. We'll actually go through articulation of this guy a little bit later. But you know, it does look really, really good, especially with the chrome. I kind of wish that all the gold was done in chrome. I think that would have made it a little bit better from that. But aesthetically wise, he looks awesome. The backpack is not that heavy. The hook that the Riku Tryon connects onto, you just make sure that you push it all the way out, because if you don't, it won't connect on properly. So other than like the head connect piece and then the back connect piece, the rest of it is pretty basic. I pretty much transformed it the first time on camera. So it didn't take me any tries. It just took me the one try. Just follow the instructions, you'll be good to go. But he looks really good, I must admit it. He is extremely heavy. Of course, I'd expect nothing less out of a Chogokin, but he looks really, really good. So what we're gonna do next is, before I get into all of his weapons and everything, I wanna see what his articulation is, because the 3 Tryon machines individually did not have much articulation. So I'm gonna be interested to see how his articulation is now that he's all put together. So let's do that next. Now there is one thing that I want you guys to be cognizant of, and it's pretty much has to do with the lion mane part, and it can be a little wobbly, especially once you start messing with his articulation. So what I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna show you the connection points that you need to have. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this arm off, if I can get this to come out. All right, so as you see, how this connects is it connects through this here, and then this connects to the sides. The yellow part here has two prongs that it has to connect into the part of Tryon. So there's two little slots there. That has to go in there. So you make sure that that snaps in there, but also these two sides here. And when you see how that's kind of lifting up, that's because I was messing with his articulation a little bit, and this likes to move. But what you want to do is you want to push that down and make sure it doesn't really snap in, but let's see if I get my hand in there. You want to just push both of those pieces down so you can see that, so it's flush like that. And so you know that it's locked. But what we're going to do, if you start messing with the midsection as far as trying to get him to do a ab crunch, a lot of times when you're messing with that, this part will pop off. So you just need to be cognizant of this, because you have to remember that this entire piece is connected together. So usually once the sides come out, so does the head. And so the head piece will want to dislodge as well. So you definitely want to be careful when you're doing that. So I just wanted to show that to you guys, so you guys are aware when it's in there securely and it's in there like it's supposed to be. But if these come dislodged, this whole piece will start moving around a lot. So you definitely want to be careful with that. So I just wanted to go over that real quick, because that was something I forgot to say in the last segment. But I just wanted you guys to see how that works, because that's going to be very important. So you can always tell if it's dislodged or not if this thing starts moving around when you start messing with it. If it doesn't move around, it's locked in there securely. If it starts moving around, it is not, and you need to make sure that the latches are secure in there. Okay, so now we will do articulation. So next we're going to take a look at the articulation of the Tryon 3. And his articulation is okay, but not great. Now, considering he's a Chogokin, Chogokins to me are not really meant to be like super articulate, at least not the ones that I've messed around with, especially like the Chogokin Voltron and all that. That's really the only other Chogokin that I have, the Solar Chogokin. So for me, that's really all I have to go off of. And even though the articulation with that one was okay, it wasn't great. And I've noticed that with a lot of these, this is more about the transformation and all of that stuff. So first, we're gonna take a look at his backpack. So for his backpack, you can raise this over, okay? So what you can do is take this, raise this up. And as you see, when I start messing with it, that stuff wants to become dislodged. But yeah, so you can raise these, okay, as you see fit. And I can already tell that that's kind of come loose. So let me make sure that that's in there real quick. All right, looks like it's back down in there. Okay, so we've got that part. So that's what you've got for the backpack. For the head, of course, he can look up. That's about as far up as he can look. He can look down there, okay? So, and as you see, as you start wanting to mess around with the neck, because I noticed that when I started messing around with his articulation, a lot of times this thing does want to come dislodged. So you're gonna have to constantly keep trying to push that down in there. But he can spin it. Let's see, he can't go 360, he can go about 90 degrees on both sides. So you do have that there. I guess maybe you could. Let's see if I can get it. I'm trying to get my head around there. Well, I mean, he's got almost what, 180? So that's pretty good there. So I guess maybe he can do a little bit more. I don't want to break anything on this guy. But so you've got that. So of course he's got the side to side there. He's got the what? He's got a little bit of the chicken hawk, but not really. Because this whole piece here is connected at the bottom here. So I don't know if you can see that. Let me see. I can show you, yeah, but this whole piece, that's where that connection piece is for his neck. And of course, the more that you move it, this whole yellow piece here wants to get dislodged. So I would just be careful when you're moving the head, but it does move. Also, a lot of times it wants to kind of recess down in here. So, you know, it's got like that, but so you can't see his mouth, especially from the camera angle, but you can kind of raise that up so you can kind of see his whole face there. So that's what you have for the head. Now for the arms, of course, now he's got a lot of stuff going on here. So I can actually bend this down and let's move his arm. So he can raise his arm a decent amount, not a ton, because you've got this die cast pieced in here. So it looks like that's about all I'm gonna be able to get is right about there. So that's what you've got for his arm. For 360, he can do 360, but you're gonna have to move this red piece out. So I would actually pop that up and then you can kind of do this. But also when you start to rotate it, once it hits about 180, because he still has the Riku kind of like backpack and it's really bulky there. So you're gonna have to kind of maneuver it to get it out of the way. But once you start turning it, it's going to want to unscrew. So this whole piece may come out, but don't freak out if that happens, it will plug back in, okay? But so you do have it kind of like that, and then I'd have to move this out of the way. And you see how that wants to unscrew just like that? So, so I would say without it unscrewing, you can get about 180, which isn't horrible, all right? And then you just kind of put that back in there. So as you see, when it comes out like that, you don't have to freak out. You didn't break it. It's still in good shape. So that's what you have for the shoulder. You also have this piece here. So that will give you a little bit more articulation for the front of the bicep. You see that a lot with metal builds. So that is good that they have that there. All right. For the elbow, he does have a decent elbow bend, but what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to kind of turn his arm this way, all right? And that's where you can kind of see that joint there, and then you can actually push this up in there. And so he's got a decent one. I've seen better, but I've also seen worse. So that's what you've got for the elbow bend. Now for the wrist, he does have some articulation there, so it can go in and out, not really up and down at all, because this is the thruster for Yumi Tryon. So it's actually inside here. So unfortunately, he doesn't really have any up and down movement there. That doesn't move at all, but it can move in and out. So at least you've got that kind of articulation on the wrist. So not horrible. So that's what you have for the wrist. Now, for the midsection, this is where it gets tricky, and this is where this dislodging thing is really gonna start showing its ugly head. So what it is, because this is all one connecting piece. So for his ab articulation, he has no side to side. I mean, he's got a little bit of rock there, but not a ton, okay? But as far as an ab crunch, he does have a little bit, but you're gonna have to raise this whole thing kind of in order to get it. So let me see if I can do it here. So see how that goes in there? All right, so that's about all he can get. He really doesn't have any backwards articulation as far as the ab is concerned, so you're not really going to be able to get anything just because of this Riku backpack that he's got on there. So you're not really going to get anything there. Now, he can turn it about, I would say about 45 degrees. What's going to happen is you're going to see this whole thing with the lion part here, that's going to start hitting like the back skirt of this, and it's gonna start hitting the leg and the side skirt. So unfortunately, I would say you can only get about 45. If he didn't have, if it wasn't connected in this way, you might be able to get 90 degrees and maybe even 180, but just because of how the transformation works and the fact that this is all one piece here, unfortunately, you're really only gonna get about 45 degrees on the ab. And of course, as I grab that, it wants to get dislodged there. So you've got that there, and then you can get that on that side. Now he is kind of, you see that this is kind of moving all around because it keeps getting dislodged, but it slips right back in, so it's really not that big of a deal. It is kind of annoying, but it's just when I'm doing the articulation segment there. So that's what you have for the midsection. Now for the waist, of course, his front skirts do move up. All right, so do his side skirts. All right, we're actually gonna move his arms out of the way here, just so we can see this a little bit better. And I hope that didn't get dislodged. Looks like it's okay. Okay, so these can move up. So we're gonna take that, move that all the way up like that. So you do have that there. As far as the thigh, you can spin the thigh 360, but this is all die cast. And you do have to be careful because the thigh moves, but this section in here does not really. So don't try to spin this or you will break it, all right? But as far as the actual thigh part here, you can spin that, and that's actually part of his transformation. So you can spin that a total 360. So you've got that, you can lift this up. It will give you a little bit of resistance because it is so heavy, especially with the all that die cast in there, which is a good thing. So you can get about 90 degrees there. And then he does have a knee bend. Okay, now it's not as sharp as I normally like it, but it's not horrible either. So you still got a V, it's just a very wide V. But you know, overall, I think considering how bulky and big it is, it's actually still pretty good. So that's what you have for the knee bend. Now for the feet. The feet, it really has to do with this transformation. So if you're gonna wanna get any articulation out of this, you're gonna have to raise the eagle talons here. So you have to raise those, and then you're gonna have to open this up. So that'll kind of get you the articulation that you're looking for, but then of course you'll wanna close it back down, you know? So it's a little bit easier to do it that way, but you do have to be careful because how this piece comes down, sometimes this will get caught in there. But you know, so you do have a little bit of movement in there. Now, once I open this up again, like this, and then open the eagle claws, this will spin 360. That's part of his transformation. All right, so you can spin that all the way around like that. So you do have that there. He does have some downward movement, but that's really just his transformation. So it's not really articulation for his feet, but he does have that. So you do have that. There is no upward movement there. Okay, so you've got that. So we can move this, put this back down here. And then one good thing is he has a heel. So he's got a heel on his back part. That will help with the stability. He's actually quite stable considering how heavy he is, because he really is heavy, but you know, you do have that, and that's actually part of the transformation as well. But I do like the fact that they have that little heel part. So that gives him a little bit more stability there. So that's what you have for the feet. So his articulation is pretty good considering, you know, it's not, I wouldn't say it's on the articulation of a traditional metal build, but I would say it's pretty close. So you can do some interesting posing with him. So you kind of can do some stuff with it. So I really do like that. So all things considered, he actually is pretty dope. So I really do like him. So that's what we've got for articulation. Really good considering. Is it the best articulation I've seen? No, but it is decent, especially considering what it is and the fact of how he transforms and all of that. So now we'll get some of his weapons out and we'll see what he looks like with all that stuff. Now, before we get into some posing with his weapons and stuff, you do have a couple of extra pieces or spare pieces from Sora Tryon. So you can pretty much use the head, the tail from Umi Tryon. You can use these things and it will connect to the backpack. So you can have all of these on. So that's what we're gonna do real quick. So first, what we're gonna do, we're gonna turn him around. We're gonna take this and flip this up. So you can do that. You can put the head of Sora Tryon on here. So you can put that there. We can take the tail piece and we can put that here. All right, so those connect there. So he's kind of got that part. And then you can take the wings from Sora Tryon. Now these are individually marked between left and right, but we can put these in here. Hopefully I don't drop him. But you can put those on the sides like that there. And you can put the wings on the other side as well. All right, so he's kind of got those wings there. So that looks pretty cool, I must admit. Let's turn those a little bit, just like that. There we go. So it does look good. I don't remember him having the wings on in the show, so that may be something extra just for this. And I can't even remember if you could do that on the model. I don't think you could, but to be honest, I'm not sure that I ever tried. But so that's what you can do for that. So you can have those extra pieces stored on him. So now we'll get into some posing with some of his weapons. So we'll do that next. So for Tryon 3's rocket punch, he called this the armed booster. And so it pretty much works just like the rocket punch for Mazinger and Galgaigar, you know, with the broken magnum. It's pretty much all the same, even though they call it different names. But it does look really, really good. I like the effect part. And what you do is you take the original base for the Tryon 3, and these two parts here will split. So you can actually take those off. So you have them kind of like mini stands, and you can use that for your armed booster. Now, once you have to kind of get them situated in the pose that you want, and they can be a little wobbly just because these are very, very light, but I can hook this onto the main unit and that would kind of solve that problem. But it does look really, really good, so I must admit. So that looks awesome. So that's what you have for the armed booster. And one of his other moves, he called this the boomerang stagger. And so in essence, he would take off his V-fin and just chuck it like a boomerang. So that's what we got the big version of the V-fin there for. So that looks pretty cool, I must admit. Now I will say that probably out of all of his weaponry, this is probably my least interesting one, at least to me personally, but it does look pretty good. So you can do that. So he called this the boomerang stagger. And then this is when the Tryon 3 summons for the Chogokin. So I do like this effect piece, the fact that you can put it in the Liger's mouth and you can simulate it. So this is very much like Mazen Kaiser and how he pulled the sword out of his chest. This is kind of an homage to that. So I really do like that. So this is how he pulls out the Chogokin. I wish I could show video of it, but I don't want to deal with the copyright stuff because every time I do that, I get slapped on the wrist. But it is really, really cool. And then lastly, we have him doing the Chogokin. Now, so I was able to get him in the Obari pose somewhat. The Obari pose has always been a very difficult pose to pull off. Matter of fact, out of all the ones that I own that can do it, I think only Superfire Dagon did it relatively easy. So it is going to take some finagling, but you can get it. Now, of course, I moved up the arm shields just so you could see the arms and you can kind of see how that's posed together. And the thing is, the Chogokin is extremely long. So you're not going to be able to see it in the entire shot, but as you see, you know, like you can fill that out. So it can hold it under its own weight. Now, are you going to be able to do any other super dynamic poses with it? I'm not so sure because this is heavy, but I think overall, I still think that it's been done quite well. And you know, I am big for making sure that the figures I buy can do what I saw them do in the show. So this does do that. So I really do like it. So that's what we've got for his poses. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna do one size comparison, and that's gonna be with the Sentinel Genetic Galgaigar, since they look very similar as far as the lion on the chest and stuff like that. And so we can kind of see what the height difference is for him. So for size comparisons, I'm not gonna do a ton of them like I normally would do for a size comparison, but since he's a cross between a Gundam and like a Brave figure or a Super Robots figure, I'm really just going to stick to one from each category. So of course, first we're gonna bring out the metal build Strike. Okay, so he's a pretty basic metal build. So he, as you see, he towers over him. Now, the Double Zeta is a big mobile suit anyway, so I think even like if this was just a metal build Double Zeta, he would roughly be about this size in comparison. So I just wanted to see what it looked like in comparison to another metal build. And then let's take him out. I wanted to put him next to the Sentinel Ama Kunikinzen Genetic Gal Gaigar. So let me get him in here. All right. And then we can kind of have them standing side by side like that. So roughly they are about the same size. I would say, yeah, I would say they're pretty comparable. I'm looking at the top of the crown for the Tryon 3 is taller, but as far as like their shoulders and stuff, you can tell that the Tryon 3 is just a tad bit taller, but not by much. And of course, Genetic Gal Gaigar has always had awkward feet to me. So he's always kind of a pain to try to stand up. But overall, you can see that it pretty much will fit in with the Amakuni Kenzin, Gal Gaigar, and I know we have Great Mike Gine coming next year and things of that nature. So he'll be roughly in scale with a lot of the other Brave figures and Brave kits. So that's all I wanted to show as far as size comparisons. So now we'll get into final thoughts. So last thoughts on this guy, you know, I remember when the Tryon 3 was announced, this was kind of out of left field. I was not expecting a Tryon 3. I always wanted a metal build Tryon 3. This was on my wish list of metal builds, but I never thought that we were actually gonna get it. So I'm actually quite surprised that we did. I didn't know if the Tryon 3 was popular enough. And to be honest, I was kind of taken back that it was a Solar Chogokin. This kind of fits between a Solar Chogokin and a metal build. It has plenty of die cast in there, extremely heavy. It's big, but it's not humongous. So I think that it's interesting that they chose to go with the Solar Chogokin route. I think that just has to do with the transformation. Now, when it comes to me and Solar Chogokin, it's not my favorite line just because I think they've always sacrificed articulation for more of the transformation gimmick. And I see that a lot with this one. Not to say that the articulation is bad, because the articulation is not bad, it's just not great. To where I think they were concerned about getting the transformation gimmick right on this one. And to me, I think as a metal build, this might have been even better from an articulation standpoint, because the glaring issue with this figure is its articulation and how the lion mane, the head, and all of that, and the backpack are kind of one piece, and how that connects together. It does not like to stay in there, and it doesn't really snap into place. I mean, you can place it in there and you will kind of hear a snap, but it's not locked or anything. So unfortunately, a lot of times when you're messing with the articulation, you're trying to get them posed in certain poses, that whole neck piece tends to want to come off. Now, I would say that some of the pluses is a lot of the effect parts. The Chogokin is humongous. It's one of the biggest swords. I really did like when that happened in the show. It was really, really good. Also the armed booster, the wings on here, even though I'm not sure that I remember seeing that in the anime as far as when he was actually transformed into the Tryon 3. I don't remember seeing the wings at all there. But, you know, I think that that's an added bonus, and I think that it's pretty good. And like I said, I will say that this is by far the best thing out of Build Fighters Try. I really like the original Build Fighter series, and to me, Build Fighters Try was a step back. But when I saw this, because I actually rewatched the episode before I did this review, and I still do believe that the Tryon 3 should have beat the Tri Fighters. It was that menacing in the show. So, you know, it's interesting that we finally got a figure of this. this tops all the other ones. I've got a high grade of this. I have a chrome plated version of this. I may even give that one away because I never did build that. But you know, to me, this takes the cake. Now, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it as far as, am I gonna put it in with my metal build display, or am I gonna put it with my Brave build display? Because it's interesting because like it really fits into both. It's really a hybrid of sorts. But anyways, I would say out of 10, I would probably give this guy like an 8.6. I don't think that it's perfect. I think it really lacks in the articulation department, specifically even in the individual Tryon machines, and even when he's transformed. Like I would like just a little bit better articulation out of it. But it's really, really nice. If you are a fan of this mobile suit or of this figure, I would definitely pick him up. He's not that expensive. I think I paid less than $300 in total, even with shipping. I think I paid maybe like $270 for it or something like that. So, you know, if you can find it, it's definitely worth a pickup. So for me, as we're getting ready to end the year, we've got probably about 2 weeks left. We've got maybe about a week and a half before Christmas or so. I probably will try to get out one more video by the end of the year. Unfortunately, with a lot of the figures and stuff, like even though they're always slated for November, December releases, for whatever reason, they've been getting pushed back to like January the last 2 or 3 years. Because there's a couple of different figures that I'm waiting on that we have not gotten, or they've been delayed. And so unfortunately, when it comes to my review, I'm kind of at their mercy as far as when these things will come in. But anyway, so thank you guys for watching the video. If you guys could like, comment, and subscribe. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I think right now, at least the last I checked, I was at 954, 955, somewhere around there. So I am trying to get to that by the end of the year. So if you've seen more than one of my videos, if you could just click that subscribe button, click the like button, that'll help it go out to more people going forward. So thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.